Good evening. My name is Maya Smith, and I have the privilege of being the executive director of Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation. I am so excited to welcome you here today to Stories Matter, Be Kind 21 in Conversation, and thank our friends at Build and Verizon Media for convening this important conversation. Thank you for all of you for joining us. We're going to hear 4 conversations from people who are working through what kindness means in their workplaces, in their lives, and kindness to themselves. We're here tonight to celebrate Be Kind 21, a campaign built by Born This Way Foundation for and by all of you. Be Kind 21 believes from science that if you do something for 21 days in a row, it becomes a habit. We've tried it for exercise, we've tried it for all sorts of things. Now we're gonna apply it for kindness. Last week, we're on day 4 of Be Kind 21. Last week, we launched with hundreds of thousands of people all around the world, and we're so excited to dig in today about what kindness means to each of you. So our first conversation, please join me in welcoming Aaron Harvey and Crystal Anderson. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, guys. I'm Crystal Anderson, experiential producer from Man Repeller.
Yep, I'm Aaron Harvey, and I'm a agency owner in creative service space and work in mental health advocacy. So we got connected because in the mental health advocacy space, we're always looking for where's the creativity and where's the conversation that's kind of changing the game when it comes to like mental health and making it accessible to more people. And that's how we found you. I think you were doing a talk with Dr. Jess. We're like, wow, this is really cool, and read more about your story. So it'd just be interesting to maybe just hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I work at Man Repeller, and we had a conversation. We do these things called good evenings. And Dr. Jess, who's just a beacon of light, she's a psychiatrist and also does a lot of work on like Instagram and making it really accessible to folks. And so she and I sat in conversation and really talked about what it means to live with mental health disorders. For me, I have OCD, depression, anxiety. And I'm also a Black woman, a queer woman, a young person, elder millennial, if you will. And so for me, it just feels like a responsibility, and has always felt like a responsibility to be open about those things, because there are so many nameless, faceless people in general, but specifically for me, Black and brown women and queer people who live with very specific types of mental health disorders, specifically like you and I talked about OCD and like ruminations and all of those sorts of things. And I've, spent time in treatment in mental hospitals for that. And also want to show people you can have a life well lived after going through those things, So that sort of feels like my the price I paid to be on Earth, is to have those conversations.
And I think in the chair that I'm sitting in, I grew up privileged in a privileged family, and as a business owner and someone who has sort of, the same sort of diagnostic sort of situation as you, spent over 20 years in silence with these mental health conditions, I felt like I also have the same responsibility. There's that point where like your story becomes a responsibility. So
yeah, for sure.
As someone with, high anxiety, I would assume, with OCD and various components.
Guilty, yeah.
How does this whole conversation of kindness in the workplace, which both you and I run some pretty serious scale projects with tight timelines and budgets, like how does that whole, like what's your role in terms of like stoking kindness within your company?
For sure. I mean, I think like, I'm a quote unquote leader at Man Repeller. And it's, my dad is this big, huge Italian man. He's always telling me, Crystal, costs nothing to be decent, costs nothing to be kind. And it's the one thing I've always remembered. It literally costs nothing to be a decent human being. And as a leader, I have to show that to the people that work with me or for me. I can't expect them to just be decent, kind human beings if I'm being an asshole. Can I say that? Whoops. You know what I mean? If I'm not sort of walking the walk and talking the talk. And I imagine for you, it's the exact same thing, especially as a founder of a business where, it's like a top-down sort of in terms of culture, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it immediately. I know it's coming on 10 years of running a creative shop, and I know that I've been very hot and very cold in that time frame,
Sure.
and that inconsistency is what actually can create an unkind environment
Sure.
for other people. So if I've learned anything, it's like, how can I make sure that I'm always consistent in who I'm speaking with in terms of my kindness, and making sure that like everyone feels like heard and has an equal seat at the table, and that ultimately my behavior is in check.
Yeah.
Because like checking my own anxiety can lead to like much better outcomes when I do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So one thing that I think is always challenging is like, what's that line between kindness in the workplace and getting shit done?
Yeah.
So I was curious what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tightrope, but I don't ever ask of anything of anyone that I work with that I wouldn't do myself, and I think that's really important in sort of laying the groundwork for what kindness looks like. Because kindness, I think some people conflate kindness with niceness, and it's not the same thing. Not for me anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like you can be nice because you want something from someone, and that totally negates you being kind, right? But you can be kind in the way that you deal with people, and you give them equity and equality and hiring differently abled people, or just, there's a complete realm for kindness. But for me, just on a day-to-day basis, it's really making sure that the people that are working with me are set up for success, have the things that they need, so that when it's go time in the high stress environments that we both work in, that if I'm not my nicest, they know that I'm still leading with kindness. So like sometimes things need to get done. I don't have time to be like, hey girl, how are you? And I just need to be like, hey, I need you to go, get the photographer, go upstairs. I need, some gaff tape on the floor, and I don't have time to please and thank you, but they know where that all stems from, and that underneath all of that, there is a kindness to the things that I'm asking, and that, we'll process later if for some reason, I'm not the nicest.
Yeah.
Do you feel that same way, or like how does that manifest for you?
I do. I mean, I think, the killer of culture is when people can't make their own decisions. So I think part of like that top-down aspect of leadership is making sure that the decisions you're allowing people to make, they have the full autonomy to do that. Because that's where kindness cracks. Because suddenly it becomes about politics and coalition building and, all these other, negative cultural things. But when people can truly make their own decisions, then it's a whole different game. That's at least kind of, been my experience.
No, I agree. I mean, and this very well could just be a manifestation of my OCD, but like when I'm in it, and I'm just going and going and going, and I have someone that I'm working with, I tell them what I need so I can get it off my brain. Because once I say it, I don't know where it's gone. It's no longer in here. And so, having people that I can trust is really important. And the only way you're going to have a group of people or, a team of people that there's that two-way trust is if you do lead with kindness. So, and I work in fashion, entertainment, media, and, although it costs nothing to be kind, it's a premium in those businesses where it's not really, on Front Street as much as it could be. And I think that's a couple things that's, people think they need to be hard asses because that's just what everybody does, because 1 million people would kill for this job. And it's like, it's not 2001 anymore. Everybody can be decent. There's enough space in this world for everyone to have a space to create. We have all of these new technologies and new apps and Instagram and all of these ways for millions of people to create. Outside of just, being a leader at a brand like, we are. And so I think those are all super important. And then also, because mental health disorders are so prevalent, it's really, you have to be kind. You have no idea what people go through. People, like if I wasn't open and honest and talked about the things that I've been through, nobody would know. And then you have someone who's just a complete jerk, and they just have no sort of historical knowledge about you, what you've gone through. So I think that's also given me a sensitivity to how I deal with people in all spaces, but specifically workspace. Because when you're at home, you can sort of be whoever you want to be. But when you're at work, you don't have the luxury of leaning into your mental illness the way that you would. Or even like if you don't suffer that way, you're just having a bad day, or whatever. I don't know if that's something that you also...
Yeah, trying to lead with empathy when you're having challenging conversations is always the aspiration. Can be very hard to do. I've tried to get better at pulling myself out of a tense moment and trying to consider that fact that that person, I have no idea what's going on in their personal life. They may have just been off on this assignment or behaved this certain way because of that. So like, I think that's where kindness comes in, because it doesn't mean that that person wasn't in the wrong. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a conversation, but the way in which you go about it can be, you know, really constructive.
For sure.
And can lead to really long-term relationships beyond the office, right? Because we were talking about that for a minute, which is like, whether you hire friends or whoever you're hiring, like when the job is done and the client moves on to the next thing and everybody's back there, like the way you behave during that entire time period is like is basically like the floor you're setting
for sure
for that point forward.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, like I said, it's really important to not conflate the two, kindness for niceness. And so I think like for a big part of kindness for me is accountability, both for the people that I work with, for my partner, my family, and most importantly for myself. You know, I have zero interest in being around a bunch of people who are like, you're doing great, when I'm really not doing great. You know what I mean? Or like, you know, who aren't holding me accountable for, you know, consistently. And, you know, it's a big reason that I fell in love with my partner, because she calls me, you know, to the table when I need be. And same with my mom. She's always like, come on, girl, what?
Right.
You know, and so I think that's super important. And so for me, you know, there's a grace in kindness. There's, you know, a love in kindness, but there's a realness in like actual kindness.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think that word realness is really important. Like about 3 years ago, I had, or no, maybe, no, 3 years ago or so, I finally opened up about my mental health conditions or wrote an article, and I was like, man, my team's going to see this, my clients are going to see this. And I'd always sort of had a certain, I don't know, I would like to think a certain like posture.
Yeah.
But that totally came down when I'm talking about, you know, a lot of what comes with OCD that people don't understand, like violent thoughts and a lot of crazy stuff. And I was like very nervous about how I would be received, right? And I actually was met overall, you know, 3 years now of advocating with the tremendous amount of kindness from clients and teammates and people pulling me aside and having one-offs. And like, it's actually led to better work relationships with certain people.
It humanizes you. I imagine as a co-founder and someone who's constantly moving and shaking and going and like being, you know, and also being the creative helm, people sort of, not Superman sort of thing, but like, it humanizes someone who otherwise can seem like a, you know, sort of like a mythical sort of thing. Is that what you felt?
Yeah. Leveling the playing field is like, you know, such an important idea, because you come into a company and you feel you're here and like they're up here, but really everybody's having the same struggles at varying levels of severity at any point.
For sure. Yeah.
Becomes super important. Did you feel like when you opened up about OCD that you had a similar experience?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think because people are just decent, but because there were so many people who had been suffering in silence who were like, finally, somebody talked about this. You know, and we live in a world where Instagram and, you know, it's all this very sort of like placid, you share what you want to share. You can, you know, sort of have this, you don't put a mirror to yourself. It's more like a curtain, so you can show what you want to show. And so it's important for me. Like, I wear kooky clothes. Yeah, I have a really cool job. Yeah, I just got engaged a couple days ago. I've been saying that to anyone who will listen. So thank you very much. You know, so yes, like there's all those great things. Yes, I have a really cute apartment, but also like Xanax doesn't have a name. You know what I mean? Like the depression doesn't have a name. It doesn't like have a socioeconomic background. It can affect the garbage man the same way it affects the guy who works at the bodega, the same way it affects, you know, the president or anyone else. You know what I mean? I didn't say which president, you know, but you know, like it truly does not have, you know, it's one of the few things that is boundless in terms of race and sexual orientation and, you know, all of that. And so it's so easy for people to touch and agree on that thing, you know? And so that's where I feel like a lot of kindness is just if you don't suffer at all, at least you're like, man, didn't know you were going through that. But probably 7 out of 10 times, it was because someone suffers on some degree, and for them to see someone living a life well lived with all of those things happening and having that duality was really important. And it's important for me to see other people, you know, who also suffer, who I look up to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like part of that is also kind of like tearing down the DSM as this sort of this organization and this structure to better understand things. But the reality is we're all on sort of this spectrum of symptomology and severity, and kind of bringing everyone into that fold creates more of that shared experience versus
For sure.
I have this disorder, or I have this disorder. Because like I could go, and depending on who I go to, I can go get a different disorder. You know, I can go get whatever I want. So like, which I think is interesting, because when it comes to the workplace, because society has fundamentally failed to educate anyone on what mental health conditions are, what symptomology is, then where are all these people going, undiagnosed or with misdiagnoses, directly into the workplace? So now that's become, you know, battleground number one for helping educate and understand. So I think this, you know, what maybe a word like kindness could feel soft to some degree, but like that kind of is the currency, you know, the kindness is like...
Yeah, it's important. Like, I mean, I've been blessed enough and privileged enough to work for most of my career in workplaces that understood what my needs were, because I voiced those needs. And, you know, specifically at Mary Peller, it's just a part of our lexicon. You know, one of my colleagues might say, oh, let's go to lunch, but I have therapy at 11, so what can we do when we come back? And it's not like a hush thing. It's just how we talk. You know, I have no issues saying to my boss, like, I'm having a really like rough day today, or I just started some new medicine. I gotta go home. It's never like, oh my God. It's just what it is. It's just normalized. It's like any other thing. And so I want that to be not just for these creative spaces where, you know, where it is a privilege to have those conversations, but in spaces, you know, that are a bit like government agencies, or, you know, schools, or banks, you know what I mean? Like people are like blue collar 9-to-5 jobs who they don't have that luxury, where they just have to show up for, you know, a myriad of reasons. Either they have to, you know, they just have to be at work. But sometimes it's like you can't work through it.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't have that.
Creative field have that luxury.
Yeah.
And I mean, my biggest mental health break is surfing. So whatever I can do to chase it, find it. And, you know, I've literally in the office said before, like, oh, I really want to go surf tomorrow morning, blah, blah, blah. And people are like, no, you should go surfing, because
go,
like,
man, just
you
go.
always
we'll
come
see you
back
when you
nicer.
Get back. Yeah.
So like, I think, however, those kind of things you can learn about people you work with, and help to foster and facilitate their ability to go do those things. Because no matter what, even whether you're an owner or a leader or a junior employee, you're always going to feel that pressure to
for sure.
not do the thing that makes you feel good.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's also important. Like sometimes, you know, my fiance will be having a rough day, and she's like, oh, I did something so stupid at work today. And I'm like, hey, don't talk about my boo like that. Don't talk about my boo like that. And so it's just like a reminder for it's me reminding her to be kind. And so I have to also take that advice often, because I'm the least kind to myself, you know, when it comes to like just day-to-day type stuff, or when you make a mistake at work, or you've had a bad day, or, you know, just like, never mind all the mental health things also. Do you find it difficult to be kind to you first?
Yeah, very difficult. And I think when you're talking about things like OCD and depression, your brain is constantly telling you, you know, terrible things, kill yourself, hate yourself. Like a lot of that kind of stuff is constantly going on. So like, how do you even carve that space out? But it's kind of like putting that oxygen mask on first. And, you know, you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're being healthy, or you're not going to be able to take care of other people.
It's true. So. Yeah. It's like, for me, it's a constant, you know, reminder, but I have to like remind myself to be decent and kind to myself, and that, you know, it's like, I work in fashion, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's good.
No one's
like,
dying.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, how tough can it be? You know what I mean? But then also you have these OCD things that just sort of like exacerbate the smallest sort of issues. And so it's constant work. But I think, again, like, even if you don't have those things, those mental health struggles, every person, I think, struggles with this
Yeah.
need to be kind to themselves, specifically in workplaces where, especially if it's high anxiety or, a lot of women, I imagine, because there isn't enough space for all of us. That's what the patriarchy has told us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that, it's really important to think about that too.
So we'll put in the work to be kind.
Yeah.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our
as
best.
Leaders. All right.
Remind me.
I will.
Can we give one more round of applause for Crystal and her work at Man Repeller and Aaron at his work at Made of Millions? And thank you so much for that conversation. I took a couple key things away from that. First, kindness is free. The act of kindness is free, and that when we're brave enough to tell our stories, as Aaron and Crystal just were, our stories become our responsibility. So thank you so much for that incredible frame. Before I welcome our next guests up, please check out this wonderful video from yours truly at Born This Way Foundation.
We are Spring Hill proud. We will accept, respect, and appreciate that we are all different. We will achieve, succeed, and grow as learners. And every day we will strive to inspire and motivate others.
Be Kind 21 was built out of the emotion and anxiety of a new mom, me, having her son start kindergarten for the first time. And I talked to him about the importance of creating a culture and a habit of kindness. I thought, I shouldn't just be talking to my kid about it, I should be talking to all the kids about it, and Be Kind 21 was born. It's so special to get to test Be Kind here in my own backyard, from the elementary school to our local bookstore, Bell and Bunna's, to the friends that I'm bringing in my home to share stories of kindness in the library and all the other places around Lafayette. You can check out the Be Kind 21 hashtag, join the campaign by visiting BornThisWay.Foundation, and start building a culture of kindness in your community. Our next conversation is about giving and receiving kindness in families, and I have the privilege of knowing both of these young ladies personally. Cynthia Germanata, president and co-founder of Born This Way Foundation, and Karis Rogers, founder of Flexin in My Complexion. Thank you so much both for being here. You both embody kindness and community. So excited to hear from you.
Thank you, Maya, and welcome, Karis. And I am really excited and have been looking forward to talking to you about giving and receiving kindness in families. And let me just say that families now is defined however one wants to define it, right? It's not necessarily the traditional mold. It means something different for everybody. So whoever's watching, I just want them to get in their mind their vision of what a family is. And at Born This Way Foundation, we work with young people every day who inspire us. Their stories inspire us. Their stories of kindness and bravery. In fact, our foundation exists because my daughter was brave enough to share her stories. And it gave other young people a sense of encouragement and empowerment that they could overcome their own struggles. Your story is one of incredible bravery and incredible inspiration. You are only 13 years old. You experienced a very shocking and painful situation, I think a couple of years ago, and you managed to turn it around. You received kindness from your family, from your mother, from your grandmother, from your sister Taylor. And I would like if you could just please begin by maybe sharing with everybody what happened to you. And how, I should say, and how you came to form Flex in My Complexion as a result.
Yes. Okay, so I was in the first grade, and I was being bullied for my dark skin complexion, and there were only 4 other black children in my class, so I was darker than all of them, so it made me feel really uncomfortable, and the kids would treat me different from all the other ones. So one day, it was an incident with my teacher. She gave me a black crayon instead of a brown one, and it made me feel super, super uncomfortable about myself on the inside and outside. And how I overcame that was talking to my mom, but I really didn't know what colorism, racism, or bullying was at the time until when I started getting older and I started realizing. So then in the 5th grade, I was in a fashion show, and my sister posted a picture of me on Twitter with the hashtag flexing in her complexion. And then a few days later, I was like, why don't we just create a clothing line called Flexing in My Complexion to make sure that everyone loves themselves, to make sure everyone is just to embrace themselves, embrace their skin color, embrace who they are. And flexing in my complexion means that it doesn't matter what other people think of you, only what you think of yourself.
It's so true, and it's amazing. Can you share the role that your family played in helping you come to this realization? And, did you talk to them about the bullying experiences that were happening to you? How did they sense it, and what role did they play in you creating Flex in My Complexion?
So first, my mom, she took it to the teacher personally, and she talked to the teacher about it. But then she actually talked to me personally, and then she gave me, like, in the mirror, every morning I'll say beautiful things about myself. Like, I'm beautiful, I'm confident, I'm special, I'm creative. And that just made me feel more confident in myself. And just to know that I had family behind me that were there for me and who supported me, it was just amazing, yes.
It really is. And that's not always the case. We do a lot of research at Born This Way Foundation, and one of the things that we found is that a lot of young people are very uncomfortable talking about their experiences, sometimes especially to their families, for the following reasons. They feel judged. And also they say that their families don't actually share their own experiences. So I think because of that, young people feel like they have to be like really strong and not talk about it. Did you have those similar experiences? It sounded like your family was more open and receptive to talking.
Yeah, they definitely were, but I don't think that anybody else in my immediate family has ever been actually bullied like I was, like teased about their skin color. But just for them to actually be there and help me through this journey to actually create Flex into My Complexion and to be supportive about it and actually believe in me that I actually can change the future for the next generation.
Did you start behaving any differently after these bullying experiences happened? And the reason I'm asking, one of the mistakes that I made as a parent, was missing the warning signs that my daughter was showing. I kind of grew up in a family and a time where we really didn't talk about those things. It was more the time of true grit and, suck it up, get over it. Did you talk openly about your bullying instances?
I remember one day where it took to the situation where I actually told my mom is that I was in the bathtub and I stayed in the bathtub longer so I could get lighter, so I could be light-skinned. And then that's when she started realizing that something was different about me because I used to be I wasn't that shy, but I was shy enough. But I wouldn't really talk. I would just be to myself. So then she started realizing that something was different about me. And my sister Taylor she actually was the first person who realized that I was acting different. Yeah.
So somehow you were able, at a very young age, to be kind to yourself and to love yourself at a very difficult time. I'm curious how you did that and also what advice you might have for other young people who are experiencing difficult situations.
My advice for other people who are going through situations somewhat that I went through is that do affirmations. Like, look in the mirror, like I said, say beautiful things about yourselves. Talk to a friend that you really trust, an adult, and just know that you're not alone in any situation because there are millions and millions of people who have gone through things that you have been through. And I learned that over the years that even when I started Flexing My Complexion, I realized that I wasn't alone. And I'm still not alone.
There are many young people, though, who feel they are alone. So what would your advice be to somebody who maybe doesn't feel comfortable talking to somebody in their family? What suggestions would you have for them?
Oh, I will let them know that you shouldn't even let the words that people say get into your head, because that's what I did, and that's what made me feel less confident in myself, because I actually listened to what they were saying about me. And I've heard a lot of people's stories over the years, and that I've actually helped them overcome them harming themselves, actually threatening themselves, actually. And I'm just like, wow, like I can actually help everyone out and just telling my story. And when you hear other people's stories, that's when you know, oh, their story is similar to mine. Oh, they've been through this, they've been through that, I've been through something similar. And that's when you start to realize that you are not alone at all.
You're not, and we've found that just having one person to talk to can make a huge difference in your life and in the choices that you make. So you also, in addition to Flex and My Complexion and the wonderful clothing line that you have, you also started a foundation called the Karis Rogers Foundation, and you are being kind to other people and helping them. Can you talk a little bit about the wonderful ways that you're helping others?
Yes. Recently in July, I did my first annual back to school drive with my foundation, and I gave school supplies to over 500 kids, and over 1,000 people came. So it made me feel bad that I actually couldn't give back to everyone who came, like I told you. And it just feels amazing to give back, and just knowing that I actually did it in South LA. And in South LA, there aren't a lot of fortunate kids that are able to get school supplies, backpacks, and stuff like that. So I gave back. Yobi donated to me school supplies. We donated hair products, free Dodger tickets. We gave back a lot of stuff. And just to see the smiles on people's faces when they actually received what they got was like, wow, like this is amazing to me. Like I'm being kind. Yeah.
That's right. Congratulations to you. And I know that you were very interested in our campaign, the Be Kind 21 campaign. Can you tell everybody what attracted you to that and what made you actually reached out and contacted the foundation? What is it about Be Kind 21?
Oh, wow. Okay, so when I first heard about the foundation, I was like, wow, this is amazing, because a lot of people were coming to me telling me about the foundation. I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to research them. And then I told my sister Taylor about it, and then that's when she reached out to you guys about your foundation. And I was like, I would really want to partner with you guys one day and to do like a collab with my foundation and your foundation. Yeah.
Well, this is the beginning of that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is.
And hopefully many more. In your school, what was the environment like as far as you receiving help if you were having a problem?
Okay, so when I was in the first grade, I've been to a few different schools. So during that time, I only went to that school where I was being bullied for 1 year. And then my mom switched me to a more diverse school where I started realizing what colorism was. That's when I experienced colorism. And that is when you're being teased about your skin color by people that are in your same race, basically. Okay. And I was like, why are you guys messing with me? But we're the same race. We're almost the same color. We all come in different shades, sizes. Like, yeah. And then after that, I was in middle school. Yeah, I'm still in middle school. But then I went to an all-girls school. It was better, but, it was all girls. So it was, like, kind of different. I wasn't used to that environment.
Were there any resources available to you when you had a problem? Somebody that you could go talk to in your school or in your community?
I don't feel like I was as comfortable to actually talk to someone at my school. I feel like I was more comfortable to talk to my family about my situation. And actually, like my aunts and uncles and stuff, they actually learned about my situation actually when I came out about it on social media and actually put out Flex My Complexion. And they didn't know at all. So I was just more comfortable telling my mom, my grandma, my sister, my grandpa. Yeah.
That's very, very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So in terms of our work at the foundation, is there anything that you would like to know about that in addition to our work around kindness.
Yes. Oh, I have one question. What actually inspired you to do it? Like, what made you actually go about creating it and actually putting it out to everyone?
There were two main things that inspired it. One was it's very personal for me and for my daughter and for our family because we experienced a lot of meanness also. My daughter was very different and let's just say very uniquely different growing up, and there was a lot of mean-spiritedness that she experienced, and it caused her to develop anxiety and depression in middle school. And it pretty much followed her, even throughout her career. And she was brave enough to share her story when she gained her voice in the music industry. And many other young people started sharing their stories once they heard hers. And they were both healing and feeling inspired. And they were saying, hey, Gaga, how did you do it? And how can we get involved? So, it was a combination of her own personal experiences and her desire for other young people to feel like they were better equipped to deal with their struggles than she was. And that's really how the foundation formed. And what we focus on today is creating conversations, very healthy conversations around kindness and around mental health like we're having today. We connect young people with resources in their communities. We help build kind communities that care about mental health. We do a great amount of research, and we work very hard at eliminating the stigma around mental health.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's really how it all started. She was really the inspiration behind it. And, as a parent, I was really proud of her for using her voice and using a difficult situation like you did to turn it around and turn it into good. So I'm proud of her, and I'm very proud of you for doing what you did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And any other questions for me? Or?
No, I'm actually good. Thank you so much.
Okay. And I just want to tell you, you're a very kind person, and you're beautiful inside and out.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Karis, everybody in this room is in awe of you, and thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and being such a bright light in the world. And Cynthia, though she was hard on herself about the mistakes that all moms make, I recall a certain line in a really famous song called Born This Way about My Mama Told Me. So you have done an incredible job as well. Please join me again in thanking Karis and Cynthia. And we're going to watch another clip from Born This Way Foundation.
We are Spring Hill proud. We will accept, respect, and appreciate that we are all different. We will achieve, succeed, and grow as learners. And every day we will strive to inspire and motivate others.
Be Kind 21 was built out of the emotion and anxiety of a new mom, me, having her son start kindergarten for the first time. And I talked to him about the importance of creating a culture and a habit of kindness. I thought, I shouldn't just be talking to my kid about it, I should be talking to all the kids about it, and Be Kind 21 was born. It's so special to get to test Be Kind here in my own backyard, from the elementary school to our local bookstore, Bell and Bunna's, to the friends that I'm bringing in my home to share stories of kindness in the library and all the other places around Lafayette. You can check out the Be Kind 21 hashtag, join the campaign by visiting bornthisway.foundation, and start building a culture of kindness in your community. I'm so excited to welcome to the stage now multi-award-winning electronic violinist Lindsay Sterling, whose album Artemis comes out on Friday, and Lindsay Holmes, the wellness editor at the Huffington Post, to talk about something that isn't talked about often enough: kindness on online communities. Too often, the anonymity of the internet and online communities hides and breeds a lot of unkindness. These two incredible women will share the stories that they've experienced and how they have survived and thrived to build online communities. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, we got Lindsay squared up here.
Yeah.
Hi, Lindsay.
Well, congratulations, first of all, on the album coming out soon.
Thank you. Super excited.
So we were talking a lot backstage, and one of the things that I love about you is how positive you are and how you try and put that out in the world. That includes social media, and we're here to obviously talk a little bit about social media. So I want to start by just asking you, what are some examples of kindness that you've experienced online or in your own social media accounts?
Yes, I felt like I found a home through social media for my art. When I first tried to share my art with the world, I tried several different ways, going through traditional media, labels. I went on America's Got Talent, and when I say that I was met with a lot of unkindness, I was very harshly criticized. And I remember I kind of found a little home on YouTube where I thought, well, this is a place where, at the time, this is back in 2010, and it was where I was like, oh, this is almost like a home for the misfit toys, And I started putting up my music online, and I was amazed that, of course, there were hateful comments that made fun of me and, of my dancing and playing the violin. But more than that, I was so shocked at the amount of kindness and the community that developed around what I did, of other people who maybe themselves felt a little outside of the box. And I quickly learned that online is a place where there's a home for anything. And I think a lot of times we focus on the negativity that exists online through a lot of bullying and cyberbullying and hate that definitely is there. But there also is an extreme amount of support that can be found from around the world of people connecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were saying, again, backstage, just how our jobs are so different, but also in the same way we are subject to scrutiny from people who are just typing from behind a screen. And it's important for people to just stop and recognize that when they're typing to someone, they're also, or replying to something that they see online, that they're also replying to a person.
Yes, I think in general in life, we dehumanize people. Like walking along the streets, we're being passed by hundreds of people every day, and it just becomes kind of a wall of people. Or when you're driving in your car and people yell at each other, people are dehumanizing people. And if we walked through life remembering that every single person that you pass has hopes and dreams and has people that they love and that they're sacrificing for, and they have worries and fears, every once in a while I'll have a moment where I get kind of overwhelmed because I become very aware that these are all people with feelings and passions, and it's very overwhelming. And I think that's why we dehumanize people so much, because it's hard to intake that. Even more so when it's a list of screen names and when there's this wall of faceless critics and comments. And if we always just remembered that these are people with feelings and dreams and hopes the same way that we have, kindness would be easy. And, and I think that online makes that wall even thicker.
Yeah, and I think that we can also extend that to a conversation around mental health too. I mean, if people who stigmatize mental health just remember that people living with mental health conditions are people too. They're not defined by their conditions. They're not, their condition is just one part of their life. It's not their whole life. I think that there would be a lot more acceptance around mental health. And
for sure.
And two, I think that there would be a lot more openness to treatment and to talking about these issues pretty publicly, which you do.
Yes. And for those of you, most of you probably have no idea my story at all. I struggled with anorexia in my late teens, early 20s, and went severely into depression, and it consumed my life. And I remember the biggest thing that I felt was feeling alone, not realizing that other people experienced this very same thing, probably all around me, but yet I suffered alone. And when I started to build a platform online, it was very important to me to make sure that I did my best to make sure that other people don't feel alone in this disease. And whatever diseases we go through, mental health all stems from a lot of the same things. It just manifests itself in different ways. And through being vocal about it, well, one, other people helped me have the courage to be vocal about it through their conversations they started online. And it made me feel like, okay, well, if they can talk about this, I can talk about it. And then it's been really, really cool to see that in my little corner of the internet with my little community of, they call themselves Sterlingites, and there is a very open conversation about mental health. And what I love the most is I see people in my community helping each other. I wish I could comment back to every single person. I wish I saw every person that reached out to me directly saying, Lindsay, I'm struggling with this. How do I get through this? Unfortunately, I don't get to see every comment, and I respond to the ones I can. But I love it when I see that there's a thread of support that comes from my fans that are helping each other. And that is the epitome, I think, of kindness online, is when people are open enough and there's a safe space where people can reach out for help and express that they're struggling. And then there's others, it makes them feel safe enough to say they're struggling, or it makes them feel safe enough to mentor. And, there's so much strength that comes from mentoring. So I think that to me is one of the epitomes of kindness online that I've gotten to experience and not only be a part of, but just watch happen.
Yeah. I'm curious what your advice would be to a fan who might be struggling with bullying or experiencing unkind comments online. What would you say to them, or what do you want them to keep in mind as they're dealing with something like that?
That we've all gotten those comments before. Like, they're not alone in that. I think that's a big thing is, you have a choice of where you want to look and what you want to focus on. And I remember one time, I don't know why I clicked on it, but it was like I saw on the side of my screen, on the little sidebar, it said an article that was why I hate Lindsay Sterling. And I clicked on it, and it was some blog post. Who knows who wrote it? And there was a lot of comments, and I went down this rabbit hole of feeling worthless over people that I'd never met, that who knows where they're from, who knows why they wrote what they wrote, but it was just a string of very nasty things about me. There are way more nice things written about me online than there are negative, and yet I chose to go down this very deep rabbit hole and feel horrible. And I called my mom afterwards because I was just like, Mom, I'm really struggling and this has really hurt me. It's really affected me. But it taught me a lot about we have a choice of where we're going to look. And if there is something that is attacking you or someone attacking you, look somewhere else, because we're surrounded by good, we're surrounded by bad. And sometimes the bad is so much louder than the good, but that's not where you have to stay. Find the positive people in your life, find the people that uplift you. That's where you should go, whether it's your mom or whether it's your friend. Search for the positive in life, because the good and the bad are there, and it's very easy to lose yourself if you start to focus on the wrong thing.
Absolutely. We have this saying at HuffPost, and I'm sure other journalists kind of deal with this too, but our mantra is don't read the comments. Usually on every post, there's always someone who has something negative to say, especially now it seems like the further we go down this social media rabbit hole, there are always trolls or terrible people who have really awful things to say. But also at the same time, I think that advice is worth it, especially if the comments are going to affect your mental health. You should definitely avoid those.
Yeah.
But as you said, there's always a positive. I know that reading the comments on stories that I write is really helpful for me, because someone may point out something that I might have missed, and that can be really helpful in my career. Someone may point out something really kind about how I made them feel seen or validated in their experience, because I write a lot about mental health issues, and I think that it's important for people to feel connected to my stories, and so I like to read the comments so I know that I'm making a difference.
And I think that that's for everyone to decide for themselves what their relationship is with their social media. If you can't handle it, turn off your comments. It's an option, and certain posts I've learned, okay, for some reason there was a negative reaction to that, or people are making fun of this about me in this thread. No more. I'm not going to read those comments. But for me, it's important to read the comments until it's not okay, until I realize this isn't a safe place to read comments. I'm going to go somewhere else and look for the positive, because for me, it connects me to my fans, and it's an important part of my my connection with them. But also encouraging positivity amongst your audience or your community. And I think a really important thing to remember is a lot of people feel like, well, I don't have millions of followers, like it's not that important what I post. It's important. Everything that we post is important because we live in a world where I think the biggest difference is made by the people that are closest to you. So whether you have 5 followers that are like your mom and your best friend, and those are people that you have a big influence over. So whether your sphere of influence is 5 people or 5 million people, like what we say, is really important. It creates a ripple effect. And I think that we should all take ownership of realizing that we can make a positive influence or we can pull others down. And like, what is the impact you want to make? And actually think about it. Think about the things you say and how you can affect other people. And, what trickle effect that's going to result in, because you don't have to have a huge following to feel like what you say will have an impact.
Yeah, and that all goes back to our conversation about how we're all human. We all have these fears and insecurities and passions and people we love, and it's important to keep that in mind, I think. And also just generally, I think that it's important to remember that everyone has these insecurities even later in life. We were talking about how high school can be prime for bullying. High school and middle school can be a really horrible place for a lot of people, and obviously, like, not to belittle that, like, that's a really, really tough time. But also now, too, I'm in my late 20s and I still experience these insecurities. I still think about things that people said to me in high school that were really mean and had a profound impact on my life. And I think that remembering that as we engage with people online is really important, too.
Right. People should never forget that, I don't know. I still have moments where I feel like I'm that 14-year-old girl in freshman year looking around the cafeteria being like, oh no, who do I sit with? Like, who do I sit with? I still experience that as an adult sometimes. And it's almost like, you know what? Those emotions, everyone thinks that like high school students are so insecure. I think it's only apparent then because it's the first time we're starting to really realize that we have insecurities and that we're scared and we care what people think a lot. I think it's something that exists through our whole lives, and it's just about learning to deal with it. And not only learning to deal with it, but if you have these insecurities, other people have them too. So are you going to help other people? And I found that when I'm focused on me and my insecurities, it's like a spiral. But when you actually start to look around and humanize people and remember that everybody has these insecurities, so maybe I'm going to start to reach out and like include someone who maybe is sitting alone, or say hi to someone. And you cannot help other people and be kind to other people until you first are kind to yourself, because then you're stuck in this spiral of worrying about yourself. But the moment that you start to realize I'm okay, and you start to reach out to other people, it's amazing how healing that is. And I just remember I used to hate red carpets because I was so unokay with myself being there. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I was worried about if my dress was right. Did I dress okay for this occasion? Oh my gosh, I can tell the reporters don't want to talk to me. They're constantly looking behind me because Taylor Swift is there, and they are like, get out of the way, Lindsay Sterling, move on. And I would just feel so insecure until I started to be grateful for the experience. You know what? I'm going to be glad to be here. I'm going to be okay with just that I feel blessed to be here. This is an opportunity. And I'm going to look around. And I started to look around and realize lots of people feel insecure in those situations. And I started to have conversations with other people that I could tell felt insecure. And suddenly, life on the red carpet was a lot better because, one, I realized I wasn't alone and I was able to humanize people and be kind. And that's just a tiny example, but and it's only because people have been kind to me in those situations, and it made me realize, oh, I can do the same thing. And that's not online. We should get back to talking about online, but
No, I think it all matters. It matters online, it matters in person. I think the lesson here is obviously to remember that everyone is just human. Everyone is just trying to make it through the day, whether you are an award-winning artist who has an album coming out.
Yes, I'm so excited. Yeah.
Or a journalist who is writing about issues and posting them on Twitter, or anyone in between.
Right.
So I think we have to wrap it up for today, but thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Lindsay Squared. And I'm so proud proud of the communities that you're building online and so grateful to be in a room with so many incredible communities. Our friends from The Chain are here, which is an incredible community for people in the fashion industry recovering from eating disorders, the team at Born This Way Foundation. So building kind and brave online communities is happening, and these two young women are an example of that. So thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy this video from Born This Way.
We are Spring Hill proud. We will accept, respect, and appreciate that we are all different. We will achieve, succeed, and grow as learners. And every day we will strive to inspire and motivate others.
Be Kind 21 was built out of the emotion and anxiety of a new mom, me, having her son start kindergarten for the first time. And I talked to him about the importance of creating a culture and a habit of kindness. I thought, I shouldn't just be talking to my kid about it, I should be talking to all the kids about it, and Be Kind 21 was born. It's so special to get to test Be Kind here in my own backyard, from the elementary school to our local bookstore, Bell and Bunna's, to the friends that I'm bringing in my home to share stories of kindness in the library and all the other places around Lafayette. You can check out the Be Kind 21 hashtag, join the campaign by visiting bornthisway.foundation, and start building a culture of kindness in your community. Thank you so much for joining us, Be Kind 21 in conversation. So excited to introduce our last duo of the night to talk about an important issue that Lindsay Sterling set up so well, being kind to yourself, the root of all of the kindness that we're able to share with others. I'm so excited to welcome Alex Aid, newly promoted Director of Programs at Born This Way Foundation. And one of my favorite people, and a new friend, Monet Exchange, an American drag queen and TV personality. So honored to meet you. So honored to meet you. Take it away.
Thanks, Maya. Hey, Monet.
Hello.
Monet, thank you for joining us today to talk about kindness. Just on a personal note, I'm so honored to share this stage with you. You are a drag icon, you're a queer icon, and it means the world to get to talk about this subject with you today. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Something that's very important to all of us here, so I'm happy that you guys are having me.
Thank you. Monet, let's do it. Tell me a story about kindness.
I think that in terms of being kind to yourself, that's something that rings very true to me. Growing up a Black queer kid in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, it was not always the easiest thing to do, you know what I mean? Walking through elementary school and middle school and always knowing that something about myself was different, but not being afraid to acknowledge what that was and identifying with my queerness because, I was ashamed of it. And, you go through high school and you go through college and you have experiences and you experience life I was constantly, instead of saying I was constantly teetering whether I should express this part of myself with my family, with my parents. Should I let them know what I knew about myself and be kind to myself and share that? And the answer was always no, it's not, now it's not the time, don't do it. And it wasn't until RuPaul's Drag Race and I got on the show and, and there I am on national television in drag on TV. I'm like, should I tell someone now? I mean, I was watching, and and my family saw, and then I was facing that realization head on, and my parents, my mom and my dad, being like, we know and we love you, and I was so mad at myself for keeping them from experiencing that joy that they have for me now for so long because I was self-sabotaging and I wasn't willing to love myself enough to let them love me for who I really was, and now they're so loving and so open and have really opened their hearts to my queerness and to me being gay and to me being a drag queen and to me being and all that stuff. So long I was so mad at myself for not being kind enough to myself to let myself experience that love because I was self-sabotaging and not allowing them to. So that's a message that I want every kid out there to know. Like, yes, it's so hard and it's such a tricky thing to navigate, but whether the outcome is good or bad, loving yourself transcends all of that, because when you are allow yourself to let friends and family experience who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, no matter what they think, the love that you are giving yourself by being bold and being brave and being brazen enough to really actually realize who you are and letting them see who it is, that's more important than what anyone else can think about you.
That's beautiful, Monet. Thank you. So my story, last year I went through a really rough breakup. It was that breakup, right? Like the one we've all had at some point in our lives, most likely. The one that you dedicate, a Taylor Swift album to, Alanis Morissette, if you're my age group.
One day.
But compounding that was the fact that I have dealt with depression and anxiety since I was 16. And something about this breakup just triggered the deepest depression that I had ever felt in my life. And I had the amazing support of some really great friends who were incredible to me and lifted me up in every way that they could. But I couldn't hear anything that they were saying because the story I was telling myself in my head was so much louder than what anything anybody else was saying, right? It was the story that I'm not good enough, that this horrible feeling was gonna last forever, that I wasn't ever gonna escape this. But one thing that I started to do and taking a step in the right direction was I got on Instagram and I started looking up, self-empowerment accounts. And I started to see all of these incredible communities that have been cultivated. I discovered Rupi Kaur, a lot of Rupi Kaur. And then I stumbled across this one post that said, imagine all that energy that you're putting into someone else, imagine if you put that into improving yourself. And that sounds really simple, but I just never thought of taking care of myself that way. It rocked my world. And I did that. I started to do that. I started to take better care of myself. I started to not be so negative towards myself. I started to be a better friend, be a better son, be a better brother. And slowly, not only did the story inside my head change, but the story out in my entire life changed, right? Like Maya just said, I got a promotion, not to brag. I got new opportunities at work. I met new friends. And I'm just in such a better place. I have such a passion for everything that I'm doing in life right now. It doesn't mean that everything's easier, but things are better. And, I always appreciate so much the kindness that people show to me. I will always personally be a kind person, I hope. I hope that's how people would describe me. But the key, piece of the puzzle that was missing was that I wasn't being kind to myself, and that changed everything.
Well, and I think societally, a lot of us, it takes a lot of us a while to get there to be yourself. Because yes, it's easy to project that and be like, oh, if I just do this thing and if I do these things, I'm being nice and I'm being kind. But when it comes time to look in the mirror and say like, but am I truly being nice to myself? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to get this haircut. Yeah, I'm going on this date. But am I really loving myself? Am I really being kind and nice to myself? And I think that no matter how the journey may be long, but as long as you get there eventually, you know what I'm saying? And we all make mistakes and we all pick back up. And sometimes kindness can be, niceness is rooted in superficiality, but being kind really requires you to really look at your core and be a genuinely kind person. And no matter how long it takes, as long as you get there, girl, okay? Just do it. It's hard. It's hard. Now, I'm going to be kind to myself after this and go to Chipotle. And that's my treat to myself.
Can I join you?
That's being kind.
Let's go.
I'm being kind to me, okay? And so it's small, tiny things like that to really look at the mirror.
I love it. Kindness, it's a practice, right? It's not like I do this one thing and my whole life has changed. It's something that you keep working on, and you find yourself, taking small steps until you're finally at the top of the mountain, right? You were named Miss Congeniality.
Well, I was, and because going back to my upbringing, my family, my presence, growing up in Brooklyn, but my family is of West Indian descent, and that's something that has always been very. My grandmothers and my great grandfather to treat people honestly how you want to be treated. And we all hear that all the time and we all try to practice it, but are we really doing that? Are we really treating people when you are standing on the A train? And you know that you have been that you done sat from Jamaica, Queens, all the way to Manhattan. When you see that lady getting on at World Trade Center, you know she done had a long day of work. Get up and let her have a seat. It's literally small things like that make a big difference because it seems so trivial. It'd be like, well, I only got 3 more stops. I want to sit down and enjoy my last 3 stops. No, it's just small acts of random kindness really do make and affect a lot of change. I really do believe that.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give it up for that. Now, Monet, again, Miss Congeniality. How are you Miss Congeniality to yourself, though? Aside from going to Chipotle.
How am I congenial to myself? I think, again, random things that I'm doing and how I navigate through the world and taking more time to reflect on my own actions to myself and self-care. I think, having self-care and being able to push through and really finding ways, however great or small it is, to tend to yourself and to tend to your needs as a person, because you can't this car can't function if you don't do the oil change on it. You know what I'm saying? If you're not changing the oil, if you're not changing the fluid, the brake, I don't know anything about cars, so don't listen to any of this stuff. If you're not doing those small things about that car to take care of that car, how do you expect to make it down the block to pick up the next person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like small things that you have to do for yourself to really maintain your well-being and your mental health so that you can be kind to other people. And sometimes it feels selfish. You'll be like, I'm doing all this for myself. But you need to take care of you to be able to take care of others.
Totally. One thing I'm personally working on is confidence, right? Having confidence in myself. And you once told Billboard, quote, I wasn't intimidated by the competition because Bob the drag queen taught me a great deal about self-confidence. He taught me that when you walk through that workroom, you won. That's the mentality I had walking in. And then what happened in All Stars 4?
All Stars 4, I did snatch a crown in case you guys aren't caught up on your Netflix. And confidence. But again, you can't be confident you can't be confident if you're doubting whether you can make the journey. Confidence comes from within, from knowing that I had done everything on this end I could possibly do to make it to the end. So now so you have to trust that all that work that you've done on yourself will carry you through. And I think that's where confidence comes. You can't be confident if you're not sure about what's going on the inside, because then you will literally you won't get anywhere. So you have to be confident on what you have instilled in yourself and what you're building up inside of yourself to help you push through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By being your incredible self, that already sends a powerful message to young people. But if you did have a message that you wanted to say to young people, what do you think it would be?
Likening back to my story, I mean, because it's my story. I know it the best. To all the young queer kids, now we are in a different time where I feel like societally we are more accepting and more loving, and we are recognizing and we are respecting our trans kids, with however old or however young they are. So I think that now, no matter where you are in life, and it's so easy to tell people, oh, just go out, just storm out the closet and let everyone know. But that journey is so personal, and it's hard, and it is a snowflake. It is unique for every single person. So I think that wherever you are, whoever you are Jane, Keisha, Alex, whoever you are, sitting and watching, and you just happen to go to BuildSeries.com and you're watching this, know that no one is judging you for your experience. No one is judging you for what you want to do. However long it takes you or however short it takes you, just know that you just be confident in yourself and know that the kindness that you will feel, the kindness that you are giving to yourself by allowing the world to experience you for who you really are is enough.
Thank you. Yeah. You have accomplished so much and so many titles to your name now. You season 10 Miss Congeniality, All Stars 4 winner, New York City drag legend. What is it?
There are more. Keep on going.
Oh.
That's just 3. We have a.
You host a show. What do you ultimately want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for being someone who is always authentically themselves, no matter how horrible it is sometimes, no matter and how great it may be sometimes. Because the truth is that the thing that we can all, everyone living and breathing in this room knows about themselves that we're not perfect all the time. We all make mistakes. We all do things that we regret sometimes later. We all do things that, or there are things about all of us that we would hopefully like to change. So I think that I always want to be remembered as someone who is always authentically themselves. I make big mistakes all the time. I make small mistakes. I stutter. Sometimes I forget to put deodorant on. Sometimes, we all do all those things all the time. But being you, I think, because no one else can be you. You are literally the only person in the world that can be you. So I think just being true to yourself, no matter how bad it is, but recognizing that you do need to make some changes, no matter how bad it is or how good it is, just always being authentically myself to me is the thing that I feel most confident and that I love most about myself.
That's awesome. Well, Monet, I think you and I can agree that we wouldn't be up here if we didn't take care of ourselves and if we're not kind to ourselves. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, my dear. Thank you. And thank you for the Born This Way Foundation for having me here. And Mr. Amano, thank you so much for having me here. This has been such a beautiful, to hear all these stories and to hear, it's been so lovely. And this lovely, beautiful 13-year-old, I'm like, can I talk like that one day, please? So poised and so beautiful. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. And Monet, thank you for your presence and the light that you are in the world. And congratulations on your new show here at Build. Please check it out. And because Alex opened the door with his incredible story, I will shut it right back for you because he met a really cute boy. So
yeah, I did. Hey, Josh.
So if anyone got excited, so too bad. I really love Josh. So thank you both for being here for Stories Matter, Be Kind 21 in Conversation. I have 2 things I want to share with you as we close out the night. First, please tell someone today that you attended a conversation around kindness and mental health. You'll get comfortable with the awkward silence after the mental health piece, but you'll never know when someone needs an invitation to talk about an issue that they're facing or a challenge. And we talked a lot about 2 themes, 2 seemingly sometimes incongruent themes tonight, kindness and mental health. And I want to tell you one quick story about how the 2 connect to save a life so that you understand, as I so deeply do, that kindness isn't this nice to have, mushy feeling, but it truly can save a life. Though New York City will always be home for me, I live in California, and if you were to be suicidal where I live, you would sometimes find yourself at the Golden Gate Bridge. Far too many people every year die by suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and I had the privilege of meeting one of the few people who survived a jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. And he told me the story of that morning, which is something that I tell each and every time I have access to a microphone because it is such an incredible story. He woke up that morning in the Mission, and he knew he had struggled with a whole host of issues, and he had decided that that was the day that he was going to take his life. We know from research at the Foundation and around the world that once a person has a plan to take their life, that's the hardest thing to walk back. So we want to make sure that we can support people with resources and community and address their needs before they make that plan. But that morning, Kevin had made a plan. And in order to get to the Golden Gate Bridge that morning, he needed to take 3 buses. He got on that first bus, a crowded commuter bus, and he said to himself, he wasn't sure that he wanted to die, but he knew he didn't want to live anymore. But he knew if he got to the Golden Gate Bridge, he would jump off of it. So he said to himself, if anyone on this bus asks me how I am, I won't do it. He just put it out to the universe and sat in his chair waiting for something to happen. No one on this bus looked at him and asked him how he was. In his head, he thought it must be meant to be. He got on the second bus, which was over the hills of Van Ness into the marina, and he said to himself, on this next bus, if somebody on this bus smiles at me, if they smile at me in a way that I know was made for me and they've seen me and they've treated me as a human, then I won't jump off that bridge. So now he's getting a little bit agitated. He's scanning this crowded commuter bus of people who are very busy for a whole host of really good reasons, and nobody's mouth forms a smile to meet his eyes. So he says to himself, this must be a sign, I must need to do it. He gets to the third bus, which goes through the marina. And now he's in crisis. He's crying, he's visibly shaken, confident in the decision that he's gonna make at the end of this bus ride. And he says to himself, if anyone on this bus looks at me, if anyone on this bus looks at me in a way that I know they're truly looking at me, and they connect with me and with my humanity, I won't do it. Now he's frantically scanning the bus. People are on their phones. People are listening to their ear pods. People are moving away from him and switching seats. Nobody on that bus looks at him. He gets to the Golden Gate Bridge. He walks mid-span, and a woman in these big sunglasses taps him on the shoulder. He whirls around thinking this is his guardian angel, and this woman in these big sunglasses asks him to take her picture. She hands this crying man her iPhone. She poses against the bridge. He takes her picture, hands her back her iPhone, and in front of her, jumps over the bridge. We are fortunate today that he survived that jump and has dedicated his life to advocating for mental health. And I tell that story because we expect kindness to be this expensive, complicated intervention, but we've all been those people on the subways, walking to work, in elevators at work, who for very important reasons are too busy to notice the people around us. But we've all also been those people in desperate need of humanity and connection and recognition. And the theme of kindness in each of these conversations is that small acts of kindness can make a difference. They can save a life, they can change a day, and they can do everything in between. So thank you so much for joining Born This Way Foundation in this conversation. Please join our Be Kind 21 challenge and be an engine of kindness. Please visit bornthisway.foundation/BeKind21 or follow the conversation online at #BeKind21. Thank you to Verizon Media and Build for convening this conversation. It's an honor and pleasure to thank you on behalf of Born This Way Foundation. Good night.